the leak, saying, quote, "We were not responsible for any leaks to the media. Further, we are not in possession of any of the disclosed reports or the investigative report." But it is very clear that these recent leaks, which according to the Huffington Post's Ryan Riley has left Attorney General Eric Holder, quote, "exasperated," are coming from somewhere. There's a little bit of a clue about where the leaks are coming from in this LA Times piece by Matt Pierce, where he states that Chris King, managing editor of the St. Louis American, said law enforcement officials had offered him the leaks, saying they were briefed on the evidence and it didn't look good for Michael Brown supporters. King's paper, which is geared towards African-American readers, declined the information. Instead, the paper responded with this editorial that reads in part, quote, "The Times and Post ran with this anonymous third-party hearsay. Tensions are so high that preparations for riots, if Wilson walks free, are discussed in sober terms in local and national media and on street corners. The editors of these powerful publications have shown a lapse in judgment and ethics that is not only shameful, but actually dangerous." Benjamin Crump, the Brown family's attorney, will be joining me in a few minutes, but with me now is Chris King, managing editor at the St. Louis American. And Chris, my ears pricked up when I heard about this and you describing it to Matt Pierce. Can you tell me how you were approached and by whom about this information?
Yeah, Chris, I've been doing the kind of archaeology on this because it's old news to me. It was August 22nd was the first conversation I had. I have a mutual friend with a Delwood police officer who obviously had a lot of information that had not yet been public. And he was telling our mutual friend that he might back away from the protest scene because the evidence was not going to look good for Michael Brown. I could have pursued that, but I didn't want to run that version of events. I later was approached by a federal official who I literally bumped into, and this person told me something very similar, said something we read in the New York Times and the Post and the Post-Dispatch, namely that there were a number of black witnesses that would back up Officer Wilson's story. I also told her I wasn't interested in digging into partial selective release of information. And then later, a police officer who I have a good relationship with, talking about something else, launched into a long briefing he said he'd received that had, again, very similar details of what we've seen. And I certainly could have picked his brain and ran a report with the weak authority that these three daily papers use, but I think the authority's too weak because I couldn't use anyone's name.
Why not? I mean, why not? This is information. This is a contested case, and people run articles from grand jury leaks all the time. Why'd you choose not to do it?
Well, you know, it's humbling working in the minority media in a St. Louis, a city like St. Louis that is so racist in so many ways, because we can't run anonymous reports. No one will believe them. When we cite names, sometimes our daily paper will call the source and ask did they really say it, and they'll call me and say, did I really take that quote? So we're not taken seriously when we use name sources, so I don't have the option of using anonymous sources. I also think it's very arrogant, because you're asking the public to believe somebody told somebody who told me, and you're supposed to believe me. I don't have that kind of arrogance.
Well, there's a key point here is that all the people you're talking about are people that were in law enforcement community. It sounds like 2 local officials, 1 federal, who had been briefed but weren't sitting in the grand jury room. So it seems the chain here is a grand jury is happening. Someone is briefing law enforcement officials about what transpired in the grand jury and what people are saying there. Those people who have then been briefed are then talking to reporters.
The federal official was not a law enforcement official. I didn't say that.
Okay.
And she's not.
Okay.
I don't know where these people were getting their information. I thought they were disrespecting the legal process. Our newspaper's calling for a trial, and I think that's what the public deserves, and I believe that's actually what the shooter would be better for him, because he's going to go into history if things go the way we predict as a goat, as a bad guy, when maybe a full airing of the evidence would exonerate him.
Chris King, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.